Who would I bring back? If I could, anyone from Trek. I'd bring back Charles Tucker the Third.
What Star Trek character would I bring back? Gary Seven. I mean, really, how has that slipped through without anything? It's like Buckaroo Banzai. How come no one ever did anything, with that? Or not quite Star Trek, but I consider it to be Star Trek is Quester. That's another one.
What Star Trek character would I like to see return? I think I'll go for like the obvious one that the channel wants to see, and I think that's Sela. So much left to explore with Sela, including like what she was up to during the supernova, what she was up to during the rescue attempts, what she's been up to since, really, where she fit into the whole Romulan Free State. Yeah, lots to explore there. I'm still holding out hope that we might get some sort of Sela situation in Picard Season 3.
What Star Trek character would I bring back? I mean, one of the great things about the franchise right now is you kind of never know who's coming back or when. I mean, obviously Picard Season 3 has a few cameos, or hopefully like bigger than cameo appearances of legacy characters that we don't know about yet. Lower Decks is always good for that. Prodigy has been pretty good for that. So I'm excited to be surprised by who might show up again, but for the purposes of this video, I guess I'll say the Doctor. The Doctor should come back. The Doctor would be alive in the 32nd century, and I think it would be really cool if she showed up on Discovery. The Holodoctor meets Dr. Culber. That sounds like a great match to me.
What Star Trek character would I bring back? Well, I could tell you, or you could just watch Star Trek Prodigy and find out.
The Star Trek character I would bring back would be Barclay. Anyone who knows me knows that Barclay's my favourite character. My favourite episodes are episodes of Barclay in. I think he's not just relatable, but more interesting than most of the characters. Sometimes, because everyone is so perfect, it can be kind of boring. Not all the time, but sometimes you're like, well, I know they're going to get through this. So many characters in Star Trek are perfect, are the best at what they do, are charming. It's nice to see someone who is not just relatable, but real, feels like a real human being, feels like they deal with real struggles. It can make great comedy, it can make for more emotional moments. You want Barclay to succeed. You know Riker or Data or Geordi is going to succeed. Well, depending if Geordi's trying to talk to a lady or not. You know they're going to succeed. You don't know if Barclay's going to succeed. Most of the time, he's not going to, not straight away, but he will overcome it. You then have characters having to figure out how to involve him instead of just shun him away, which I think makes for one of the best episodes of Star Trek, in my opinion. You could easily bring him back in Lower Decks, or even better, what I said before, an Academy show. Let's see how he dealt with Starfleet Academy, because I'm sure that would have been a tough time for him.
What Star Trek character would I bring back? Jadzia Dax. Easy.
Who would I bring back to Trek? Easy. Commander Charles Trip Tucker III. Because he's not really dead. It's all part of a secret Section 31 cover-up, and they don't want you to know about it. They changed the records, they changed the holodeck programs. Even Commander Riker doesn't know the truth, but he's still out there, and he's working for Section 31. And they should really make this alpha canon, because it is beta canon after all.
What Trek character would I like to bring back? Well, considering the tone of modern Star Trek, I'd love to bring Lieutenant Commander Tuvok back. Yes, he just appeared in Lower Decks as a picture, and we love seeing that. We know he's still in Starfleet. But this character, he was with Sulu on the Excelsior. He worked with Janeway. He did more in between and more after, I'm sure. This character is a extremely capable officer, both as tactical, bit of science, and a bit in between. He knows his stuff, and those skills can be applied to so many different situations. How many episodes of Picard could he be thrown in the middle of and kick some serious butt? Tim Russ, of course, as well, phenomenal actor at Tuvok. He is one of the best Vulcans by an absolute mile. In fact, Leonard Nimoy's Spock was obviously a half human, half Vulcan, but Tuvok was our first real indication of a full Vulcan, and he is an absolute amazing actor and character in that show. So I'd love to see Tuvok return in more of Lower Decks, in Prodigy even, any of the shows, but in live action would be fantastic. Donning a classic uniform and coming back to do some tactical or some espionage or some just really special missions. I think Tim would fit right back in and just, it wouldn't feel like a dead pass, I think, if you brought Tim back.
I think that it would be quite interesting to have brought Dr. Pulaski back at some point. Now, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want her to replace Dr. Crusher. Dr. Crusher is one of my favourite characters. But it did feel a little bit like she was obviously brought in because of behind-the-scenes issues, but once those issues were resolved and Dr. Crusher was returning, they kind of just went, okay, thanks, you served your purpose, off you go, and she was never seen again. And I think it would have been quite interesting to have brought her back later on down the line as a consultant, as just that little bit of a return, just to kind of finish off that character a little bit, rather than just brushing her aside once they were done with her. Now, I know that people definitely preferred Dr. Crusher to Dr. Pulaski, and a lot of people had issues with her, but I do think that she kind of grew on me towards the end of Series 2, and so it would have been interesting to see a little bit more development in her character.
I'm not sure if you mean back from the dead or just into circulation again, and that, for me, is going to be Quark. He was always a really fun character. You'd all have like this internal struggle going on with him, of his like Ferengi background, rubbing shoulders with the Federation, and he's struggling to find himself, you know. He'd find himself in situations where it's like, the Ferengi in me says do this, but I'm kind of learning these new morals from these humans, and that was always quite interesting to see. You know, it's good character development, so I'd bring back Quark.
What Star Trek character would I bring back? I want to say Sela straight away, because it just feels like there's still such an incredible story to be told with Denise Cosby there. Like they left that hanging in just enough of a way that you could have brought it back for one of the movies. She should have been the Khan of the Next Generation movies, by the way. That is another hill I'm going to die on one day. But I'm not going to say her, because I do think a lot of other people will say that, and I want to do something a bit different, right? I also don't want to say the EMH, because he could have been in every single show, and there's not really any reason why he isn't. Like, that cameo was good, etc., etc. I'm not going to say Cisco, because I don't believe in my heart of heart Avery Brooks wants to come back to Star Trek, and as much as I would enjoy seeing it, I don't want anyone there if they're not, like, if it's just a, you know, because it never ends well. So I'm actually going to say Rom. Wayoon. Just, get Wayoon back in. Get Garrick back in. I would love to know what Garrick's up to right about now. Yeah, I would really love to know what Garrick's doing right about now. And yeah, let's do that.
Which Star Trek character would I bring back? My initial inclination and my little transgender heart wants me to say Ezri Dax, because Ezri was such a wonderful character that got kind of short-shrifted because of how little screen time that we got with her with only one season of Deep Space Nine. And Nicole DeBoer did amazing with what little she had, and I would love to see more of my little baby Ezri on screen, and becoming that full captain that we know she does become in the novel-verse. But if I'm being honest, the character that I would really love to see come back and actually has a lot of potential to come back is T'Pol from Star Trek Enterprise. Having recently rewatched Star Trek Enterprise, Jolene Blalock is easily the best part of Star Trek Enterprise. Like, no shade at my boy Scotty Batts. He's amazing. We adore him here. And also our Charles Tripp III is also my great little Southern boy. But like, Jolene Blalock's performance as T'Pol is so nuanced, so full of depth for a character that could have been very easily one note. And I think she stands up there as some of the best performances of a Vulcan character that we've gotten in Star Trek, which is saying something because we've had freaking Leonard Nimoy and Tim Russ in Star Trek. So that's certainly saying something. But she does such a great job, and I think T'Pol was a character that you really have a lot of opportunity to see where she's grown over the past few decades since the end of Star Trek Enterprise. What does she feel like? What does she think about the sort of rise of the Federation, given that she was part of the start of it? I would love to see T'Pol come back in Strange New Worlds as like a Vulcan ambassador or some sort of like very venerated Vulcan hero, and really just get to see her perspective on having been there from the start of the Federation to its height in the 23rd/24th century.
Without a doubt, hands down, the answer is going to be Lorca. I really loved Lorca in season 1 of Discovery. I thought he was the best character, Mirror Universe or not. He was enough like his Prime Universe self that most people didn't notice. I like that style of Captain. I really like the actor. And please bring back Lorca. I want to see Prime Lorca return again. Easy question. He needs to come back. So hashtag bring back Lorca.
The Star Trek character I'd want to bring back has got to be the Doctor from Voyager. I mean, when you think about it, the last time we saw him, I think, was at the end of Voyager, and we never got to see what happened to him after he returned to Earth. If his sentience and self-awareness was respected, or if he was just, like, sort of cast aside, and what happened to him during the synth ban of Star Trek Picard's first season. We never sort of learned about that at all, really. The only thing we got was Boimler yelling about people respecting his rights at the job fair in that one Lower Decks episode. But we don't know what happened to him, and it's upsetting because he had this whole arc on Voyager of him starting to come to terms with his sentience. Like, I want to see if he's still working as a doctor like he was programmed to be, or if he's found his own passion like his music. I don't know. We might never know, but it's reasonable to assume that his program is still active, and the mobile emitter that he brought back with him was probably really helpful to Starfleet to engineering new holographic technology. So I really want to see more about the Doctor in the future.
What Star Trek character would you bring back? You know, of all the questions we've been given to answer for these Trek Culture 250K celebration videos, this, for me, was the most challenging because I don't like bringing characters back. That's something I think Star Trek should really not do as often as it does. And yet, here was the question. So I finally settled on Krell. And if you don't remember Krell off the top of your head, that's fine. He was in one episode of classic Trek, A Private Little War. He was the Klingon who was providing the people on that planet with flintlock rifles and started the sort of arms race on that planet between the Klingons and the Federation. Krell is only in one scene of that episode. We don't really learn a whole lot about him, and that to me makes him an untapped resource as far as a character to bring back. And specifically, I would want to see Krell brought back in Strange New Worlds as a Klingon nemesis for Captain Pike, because as awesome as Captain Pike is, and as much as I love Captain Pike, and as much as I consider Captain Pike to be a model for how to write and portray a starship captain in a Star Trek show, Captain Pike is missing something. He's missing a Klingon nemesis. And Krell, to me, is right there, is perfect to be brought back and expanded on and reinterpreted and turned into Captain Christopher Pike's Klingon nemesis for Strange New World. So that's who I would like to see brought back. Good old Krell. We know almost nothing about him. We've only seen him for like one scene in one episode of Classic Trek. So if you have to bring somebody back, bring back Krell and pit him against Captain Pike.